Well, good evening and welcome to this rather ominous day and night. We've got this hurricane pounding on us, this wind and water coming in our state in a big way. I don't know where you are tonight, but I hope you're safe. I'm in Ocala and I'm safe and dry. And we're going to do a show tonight. It's going to take your mind off that cone. You can go cone crazy staring at that thing, trying to figure out the obviously landfall coming up pretty soon for hurricane here, Helene, which is supposed to be of catastrophic proportions. Get your mind off of it for a minute. Come join us. Let's talk about football, college football gears coming up right here on this program. So stay tuned. Buddy Bart shows on there.
Or Buddy Martin, call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Hello. It's wow, what a scary night. All the news we've heard about Hurricane Helene, which is expected to be a hurricane of catastrophic proportions with major flooding at 130-mile-an-hour winds due to hit landfall tonight. As you know, you've been watching, I'm sure, Northwest Florida, Tallahassee's right in the cone, and a few other places that we know quite well will be taken out. We wish them the very best. I heard tonight, just a minute ago, there were 400,000 people without power. Obviously, you have it, or you wouldn't be listening to this. So, my gosh, it's going to be some night. So, again, thoughts and prayers for everybody in harm's way. Stay safe. So, we're taking what we call the pause that refreshes. Anybody know that slogan? Remember, what was the pause that refreshes? Got to go way back on this thing. The meaning that the open date is here, time to breathe a little bit and say, okay, what's next? I mean, I'm not sure what Billy Napier can fix, as you have probably already heard and may hear tonight again. Urban Meyer talking about it. Urban telling us that if you hadn't got your left guard situation settled by spring practice, you got a problem. So, yeah, it's too late to do some of those things, but nonetheless, Florida gets some time off badly needed to get rested up for the big game coming up with UCF. UCF this weekend playing a big game with Colorado in Colorado. Urban Meyer will be there. We talked to Urban about that today or yesterday. Play part of the interview. Well, we're here safe and sound in the home of my good friend Kurzweil Ponder in the Ponder Mansion. Don and I have been Carswell's guest before several times. I want to take this moment to thank Kurzweil Ponder for his generosity, his hospitality, his friendship, and for letting us come to his lovely home and do all this and letting me do the show here. And just wonderful to have a good friend like that. He also taught me how to play quarterback at Ocala High School. Yeah, that's right, be a quarterback. So thanks to that, I hope you're safe and sound. This is a scary deal. I'm not sure what these numbers mean. We know about the Cat 4 part, 130 miles an hour when it takes landfall up near Perry, maybe around Cedar Key. We'll see where the cone takes us. Pressure, 947 millibars. You know what that means. You remember all that. So if you're in or near the cone, please don't try to be macho man, John Wayne. Get out. I made this mistake one time. I was in a major hurricane, and I stayed, and it was Charlie. And that was the scariest time of my life. I said, I'll never do it again. So come this past week, 3 days ago, Dawn and I hit from Panama City, and we arrived here. We're going to ride it out right now. So let's go right to our guest line and talk to the man who's been a busy guy and always a busy guy. And he's had one victory today already, so he's on a roll.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well. How's everything? Everybody safe and sound and
I guess so. I mean,
bunkered down.
Here's what worries me, and I had this discussion, an argument with Shane. What are we going to do about this? I don't know. I'm just going to stay here right out. How do you know that, Shane? You got to pay attention. You just can't say, I'm going to ride it out.
Yeah.
Here's the thing that's sobering. Over in Taylor County in Perry, where they expect to get a major hit there, if they defy the mandatory evacuation, they are asked to write their name and birthday on their arm and leg in permanent marker so they can be identified.
Wow.
That's scary now.
That is scary.
So
yeah.
I know sometimes we feel like the guys at the Weather Channel and Cantori, and they hype these things up and make them bigger than they are. And it's going to be a major. Then it comes in as a, Cat 1 is nothing. Something tells me this is not one of those. The width of this hurricane is really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Speed which is picked up going through open water. The power it packs as it hits the land.
Yeah.
The flooding, which I couldn't believe. You know me. I know where I live. You've been there. In Panama City, I live here and there, but there, our condo is probably not but 30, 35 feet up off the water, off the bay there.
And probably 20 yards, if that, off the water, from the water.
Not even 20 yards.
Yeah, maybe 20.
Yeah. It's on the beautiful bay there.
Mm-hmm.
But they're saying now in some places around there, like Apalachicola, they could have 30 feet surges. Now, I don't know what that means. I doubt that means that they're going to have that much water all the time, but that's scary. Surges are what everybody talks about, why they're so scary. So I'm glad to know you're okay. You and Marcia tonight, and you're there.
So far, so good. Yeah, up here in Gainesville, so far.
Yeah,
everything's,
share with the folks what you've been doing today. Talking to those people down in Orlando, getting them straight.
Well, we got to, since Florida's idle, there's another big game in Central Florida this weekend. Is the Colorado Buffaloes, I think, make what is their first trip to UCF, maybe the state of Florida. I'm not, except for a bowl game.
Orange Bowl before.
Yeah, that was it. But I mean, outside of for a regular season game. I remember that those Orange Bowls too, but so we being the people we are, Gator Bait, and trying to stay on top of things, and obviously I wanted to go as a member of the media to watch the game and write a little something, and be able to report back to our fans going in the next week. What UCF has, but also just to cover one of the better stories, for lack of a better term, in college football. I mean, the Colorado Buffaloes are a polarizing type team, and could have a couple top 5 draft picks. So I applied for credentials, and at first was denied. And with respect to UCF, I called back, you emailed, and we kind of let them know that what Gator Bait is about, the influence that we have, not only with the Florida Gator fans, but in the sports world and things like that. So we were able to clear it up, and I will be in the house for the UCF Colorado game, covering for Gator Bait, and just seeing what storylines come out of it. And most interestingly, from the state of college football as a whole, and most likely I will probably win or lose go to hear Coach Deion Sanders' press conference, just to kind of see his take, and obviously if they're able to get UCF, that'd be a big win for them, in the Big 12, and would put them at 2-0 in the conference. And and if there's a loss, just be interesting to see, because I think a lot of people wonder what is Coach Prime's long-term goals, relative to the University of Colorado, and what he plans to accomplish, what will happen after Shador and after Shiloh and after Travis Hunter are going off to the NFL or whatever pursuits they're going to have past Colorado. What does this program look like under, Coach Sanders year 3, year 4, year 5? Is there year 6, and that kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see them carry themselves. And obviously the UCF crowd is, I mean, one of the reasons I think they were, with respect to UCF again, is there has probably been a ton of media requests for this game, and obviously one of the bigger games in their school's history, probably the biggest since they've been in the Big 12. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out on Saturday.
I think it's important to point out this was so out of context because they're not used to hearing from us. We don't cover their games. We're basically SEC, and and we don't know Mr. Wilson. I mean, I never met him.
No,
the SID. He saw the name, thought, well, I don't know who these people are. I'm going to have room. They just didn't turn it down. I saw it, and I was just appalled when I saw it. I had to say, wait a minute, you don't understand. This guy is a dude.
Yeah,
Travels around the country going to college football. He's a football analyst, a very good talk show host, a guy that that needs to be where he wants to be.
Right.
Not sure that didn't have anything to do with what you got it straight now. So
right. Well, I think and we owe it to our fans not just to be astute about Florida, but to be astute about the game as a whole. And a lot of times you don't get that. Just like me taking that trip to Ole Miss, you got to see what the landscape looks like outside of Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. I think, and it's just like when we talk about other things, the human interest stories that, you talk about the transformation of Jack Nicklaus and some of those things. And those things can be in relation to what's going on now with Florida and the different sports and things like that, where people may need to change the way their outlook or reinvent themselves to be successful. So, I mean, I think that, it's good that you allow us to be a little bit more flexible with some of those things. And, I think it just makes our group who we are, because we do have quite a few different diverse personalities and people that can relate to a lot of different areas. And that's why Gator Bait is what it is.
Make no mistake, my friend, it's your passion that drives it. You are really great about doing it. You love it, and you do a lot of these things all of it at your own expense. And I appreciate what you're doing, because we're not a big money group.
Nope.
But we really do. And of course, we're very close as friends, and we love working together. So
absolutely,
that's all good. Did you get a chance? You didn't, I don't think, hear Urban Meyer on our program last night?
I did.
Okay.
I got to listen to it.
I'm going to play a little bit of that in a minute here.
Okay.
Franz will join us later and just talk about it. I think, get your takeaway. There were 2 or 3 points. One of them was very strong was, like, if you're going to make University of Florida, and he was there, if you're going to play tailback for me, I want the best tailback in the country.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't be that person, I don't want you here. I mean, he was straight up about it,
All right.
And that was, his standards were very high. And the other thing you tend to forget about, Urban was an offensive coach, but he took on the responsibility of special teams coach.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And he also recruited heavily defense. He told me in this interview, said, hey, listen, I said, I know you believe in paying your defensive coaches the most money to get the best coaches. And he said, yeah. And he said, I made it a point when we went out to recruit. We got those major players on defense.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I'm basically quarterbacks and wide receiver. I could recruit those all day. But he said, I want to get to go get the defensive players. Right. And he got them. Let's play a little chunk of this. Let me just say this program is brought to you tonight by our friend Jeffrey Meldon Law. Check him out if you need any help with your litigation. He also will take any cases to review. If you're not happy with what your first opinion was, he'll have someone call you. He's also a huge booster, the official law firm for the University of Florida, and also he is a all-in kind of Gator. Jeffrey Melton Law, they don't back down. Here's the interview that Brendan and I did. This is unedited with Urban Meyer. Morning from the hurricane capital of the world today. We're all kind of dodged this Hurricane Helene, and another Florida resident has the same problem. He's headed to Orlando for a big event, and we're so honored to have back on the program Coach Urban Meyer. Coach, Brendan and I are very happy to see you. Hope you're drying well.
We got a little hurricane. We got a little hurricane rolling. I think it's gonna stay offshore pretty much and hit the Big Bend area.
The wind's not the problem.
The wind's not the problem. It's that thing called storm surge. So everybody here is kind of keeping an eye on that.
Been there, done that down that part.
Been there, done that down that part of the country. It's always scary. Well, we do have football. One thing about hurricanes, it means it's fall, football. And Urban was thinking about this interview this morning. We'd like to talk about all the positive things in college football because we love it so much. You and I and Brendan. And I was thinking to myself, we could go on with a litany of things that are not right about college football right now, but it's still the great game that we love. So let's talk about, first of all, the good things about college football. What a crazy season.
The level of play
has never been greater. You know, when I covered Ohio State, I've covered not Georgia personally, but Texas personally. And what I've noticed about these teams, and I actually talked to a couple of the coaches about this. When we won those championships in 06 and 08, we had weaknesses on those teams. Everyone had weaknesses for most of the generations of college. Matter of fact, all have. You know what you see now? There's really no weaknesses on Texas, Georgia, or Ohio State because the weaknesses that were weaknesses, they went and fixed in the transfer. So I went through each one of those rosters, and obviously at Georgia, I just haven't seen them personally, so I can't gauge them. I like to see a team what they look like up close. But when your right guard was a struggle or an issue after spring practice. That didn't change. You had to deal. You just had to plan around it. Now, I kind of joke around and say, you're like a genie, and all of a sudden a new right guard shows up. You pay some money, go steal from someone's team, and it's interesting. But the level of play's never been better. There's great storyline. There's been great upsets. I cannot wait to get to Central Florida to watch Coach Prime and Travis Hunter is one of the greatest players I've ever seen in my life.
Wow. Two-way player.
He's something else.
I'm looking. We're going to talk about that game, and I know you're going to be there. McNeil will be there. It's going to be a big weekend.
I love all these new teams
coming to Orlando.
Now that they're members of the Big 12.
Now that they're members of the Big 12, all these Texas teams especially. If I was sitting in Gainesville, I got enough problems to worry about, but I don't like that part of the TV market being crunched away. So it's a challenge for the Gators and the Gator fans as well. As this sort of, I won't say upstart because they've been in it for a long time. Gus Malzahn's been building, waiting for this moment. This could be his moment.
They run the ball.
It should. They run the ball as good as any team in the country. They got the Jefferson quarterback from Arkansas. He's 250 pounds, and he's a hell of a coach, Gus Malzahn. So they scheme up a really aggressive run game. Colorado has struggled historically over the last couple of years. However, they're much better on defense. So a real intriguing matchup. I can't believe I think it's a 14-point spread. When I saw that, I was like, that kind of shocked me. But it's also, I've done it with a team. Don't devalue a team from the altitude coming to Orlando in September. Here's a guy that's playing 140 snaps a game, and Travis Hunter. I'm sure they are. That guy better be drinking Gatorade after Gatorade right now. Don't wait for it during the game. Hydration and cramping will be an issue.
All right. Didn't mess around. You did something terrific for the Florida band, man. Tell me about it.
Well, about 3 years ago, our dear friend Freddie Wiebe comes to us and said, the University of Florida won't buy the band a box truck to move their equipment around in. And when they go to Florida State, they go to Jacksonville or whatever, they don't have any, they have to rent trucks and stuff like that. So we collaborated and we put together a deal where we provided them a beautiful big box truck, and we wrapped it and with Meldon Law and the UF band. And by the way, the UF band was voted the best band in the country in August of 2023.
All right, thanks very much. I'm sorry for the audio on that. We had a little echo, and I apologize. And I think you got the essence of it, and you heard it, Loren. What about Travis Hunter?
Travis Hunter, big time. I mean, it's one of those things where, he's his ability to play, anywhere between 120, 130 plays, and play well, and he's still drawing the team's best receiver. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how he handles the tempo of UCF this weekend, playing that many snaps and things like that. And I know now there's been a discussion, former Florida Gator, CJ Gardner-Johnson, mentioned that how tough it will be for him to maybe duplicate that at the next level. But I mean, definitely a NFL talent on both sides of the ball. But just a great player. And I think the thing that you can give him most credit for, I mean, obviously he's a great athlete, but from what I understand, in an age where, he is a college kid and kids like to go out and party and do different things, and that's fine. We all did it. He has really mastered the art of recovery and has really put the time in to allow his body to recover, and almost has a routine that he uses because his body is going through that many snaps and the overload and things like that, and it works for him. But I mean, he'll definitely be on full display. I'm sure UCF will try to get him fatigued, and in the heat of the 3:30 game, all the weather should be out. They might get a little rain shower, but it's going to be hot and humid down there in Orlando, so it'll be interesting to see how he handles that. I mean, I know he's from South Georgia, I believe, so I mean, he's used to it a little bit, but he's been in that altitude and things like that, and like Coach Myers said, it can get to you. We saw that when Utah came down here, last or 2 seasons ago, and they really struggled with it at times. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles that and plays that many, if he plays as many snaps as he has been. I mean, but he's definitely a part of their both their defensive and offensive attack, and Shedeur Sanders leans on him in key situations. So it'll be interesting to see, but definitely a player that, I mean, he's going to have to pick one, and I would probably see him as a corner at the next level. I don't know if he, it'd be interesting to see if he could get open consistently at the next level, but I think he could be a Sunday corner for sure.
In that interview, I don't know if we got to play it all. I asked Jeremy about UCF and sort of encroaching on the Gators' territory here.
Yeah.
And now they've got that big market, the Big 12 and Orlando market. If that becomes any kind of a threat to Florida, it take away some of their TV market in Orlando. Urban had a really interesting response. I think you might have heard it earlier today. He says,
"Yeah,
you don't get to be that just yet. You basically got to work for that for a long time."
Right.
And UCF, all kudos to Gus Malzahn, but Florida's that brand, which I think is what you've been saying for a long time. And as Ben, by the way, shout out to Ben. He was supposed to be with us tonight, but he had problems up there in Georgia with all the weather, and he couldn't get his internet to work. So, yeah, so I thought that was an interesting comment by Urban.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, UCF, I don't know the last time you've been on that campus, buddy, but I was there a couple months ago for actually a comedy show, and I drove around to kind of their sports area on their campus, and you could see that Big 12 money. I mean, things light up a little different. They, you can tell the facing is a little different. So they're definitely trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Right.
But like you said, I mean, like Coach Myers said, Florida is such a big brand and is so big on so many levels that, yeah, I mean, UCF's got a long way to go. I mean, they got a ton of students, but, I think 75 to 80% are commuters and things like that. You just don't have the buy-in, the passion that you're going to have at the University of Florida. Like he also mentioned, literally walking out his front door and everybody's a Florida fan, So I think that that's one of the things that, UCF still got a long way to go. They got to win a legitimate conference title. I know they, had they had the playoff maybe back in 2017 when they claimed the national title, maybe they would have had an opportunity to play for one or, an expanded playoff, things like that, but they didn't. And, they hang their hat on that and they'll say, well, we got a national title, but, Florida is, I mean, it's just the entire state is built behind. And somebody asked me, why do I call them UCF? Because that's what they call themselves. So, I mean, they're UCF. That's the way they want to be called, and that's them. You can call them Central Florida, but UCF is on literally everything on campus there. So that's why I call them UCF.
I'm a little more worried about it than the average person. I guess the reason was I was around when Florida State was UCF, not even UCF. They couldn't get a game schedule with anybody in the SEC. They were trying to break through up in Tallahassee. It took them a long time when they finally got competitive with Florida. And they finally beat them in the third game. The Tennessee Biletnikoff pass, but it took them a long time to break through. I think it's easier today because you got the big network marketing behind you, and you got the league and what have you. And I don't know. It seems to me, I don't think the ACC, Florida State didn't have the ACC at that point in time either. Right. So we'll see how it works out. But
and I mean, but buddy, even if you look at Florida State, I mean, yeah, they did. I mean, I was thinking, but they actually didn't. They, they've had some success and things like that. But you and I both know people still make fun of still make fun of the difference between the admission standards at Florida and Florida State, things like that. I mean, people, you hear the rumblings of, well, I didn't get into Florida, so I went to Florida State and those kind of things. So, I mean, I think that, and then overall, just like I said, as a brand, I mean, everybody wants the University of Florida. Everybody wants a piece of it. And, you got Florida State who would love to leave the ACC and nobody wants them. So I think that that's, some of the things that are still out there that, and once again, being from Florida or not being from Florida, everything at that school says UCF. So they are UCF.
Well, it's not like it's a detrimental term.
Right. I don't know what this
FSU,
is.
FSU is what.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but literally everything on their uniforms, everything says UCF. So I mean, I can say Central Florida for the rest of the show, but it's UCF.
Well, it looks like we got some UCF Central Florida fans watching your program,
I guess,
which is fine. Fine. I mean, look, it'd be great if we had a really great rivalry with Florida, South Florida, UCF, FSU, Miami, Florida. They were all together. It'd be great to have this great rivalry, but that's not what floats the boat.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see big boy football, and big boy football is in the SEC. Now,
no doubt.
To a lesser degree, I give them props in the Big 12. I think they've done a pretty good job there, but Big 12 ain't the SEC.
No.
And so, it's just one of those things. So,
well, I mean, even if they come in here and beat Florida next year, Florida still has more wins over Central Florida than Central Florida does. So, I mean, I think that, they will always be. I know they have every right to try to increase their brand and their identity in the college football landscape. But just based on the fact that you said it, being part of the SEC and being one of the flag bearers of the SEC as a whole, I think Florida will always be not just the dominant program, the dominant brand in the state of Florida, but maybe in the entire Southeast.
For sure. We haven't forgotten about the storm. We know it's rough out there, and we're certainly not being oblivious to it. One eye, I mean, I've been watching it for 2 days and watching the storm. And if you're not careful, you can get mesmerized by that cone. Just absolutely just there to watch this cone like actually going to see something happen. And it's so infinitesimal, you don't see any movement for 12 hours. But it is good to be prepared. And it's better to know too much than not enough. And I don't know where all you folks are tonight. In fact, I'd like to hear you check in and tell us where you are and what's the weather like, and whatever. So, by the way, I want to say congratulations to our team. It's also Rob Brown, but it's protect our program. We've got a notification tonight, official from the official guys. If I could put it up on the screen, I would. Um, that we have just passed the 650,000 mark that people who watch this show said in the last 8 or 9 months. So for a little bitty show, doing what we do, and our shout out to Brendan Martin, all the great work he's done.
Absolutely.
That's a pretty nice little thing. And Loren, you're a big part of that. So a lot of pride goes into this. Sometimes you might not know, but the fact is that it's a nice little get.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that just goes to, just says who we are and the group that we have, and we're a real team here. I mean, we talk daily and we strategize and we try to bring the best content we can to the people. We try to be responsible and give the facts and not get caught up in some of the other innuendo that you can get caught up in. And I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just saying, there's a lot of false information out there. And we try to bring it to you real and try to present it in an educated manner and something that the people will enjoy. So I'm glad that, we've got a very diverse group with a lot of different thoughts and ideas, and it shows. And I think that's what makes this thing what it is. So I definitely, I'm happy for you and us, and that's quite the accomplishment. And whenever I meet people and they say, "Hey, are you on Gator Bait?" or things like that, I try to do my best to thank them for watching and tell them to continue to watch and to tell their friends to watch as well. So that's kind of how you get around, word of mouth. And even in Ohio, we getting a little buzz. People telling me they've watched the show and things like that. And got a couple guys that'll be coming on. One particular was one of Peyton Manning's receivers for Tennessee Week. So we'll we're just branching out a little bit, getting it out there.
Yeah, and I'm really, as you said, proud of this group. I know it sounds like I'm just sitting there boasting. I'm not, but they have the quality of the people. We got like Shane and Franz, and now you doing that Tuesday night show, and Rob Brown and David Whitley, and then Alec Pete Wilbur and David Moulton, and the Orange and Bluebloods on Thursday night. It's just quite a group of people.
Absolutely.
And I'll say knowledgeable people. Some of them very good writers, some of them. And I think that group as a whole, I'd put up against most any group,
Absolutely.
And it really, so we're getting people weighing in now.
And Franz, Franz is a man of the people too, man.
Oh, yeah.
When we go to softball and people see Franz, it's like, man, he walks through that little grove there. Franz is the man. So I think that, and as good a writer as I have ever, been, just the way he comes up with things so quick. I've never seen anybody come up with content that's that
There's a lot
good.
of knowledge. He has a lot of knowledge.
Absolutely.
Apparently, he's not doing well with the link right now. I just got a message from him. Let me I can find him, get him in here because he's Orange and Bluebloods night, So
yeah, gotta have the man from Gainesville. Got to.
Yeah, we do. All right, let me send him another link here. I'll do it. Well, tell me about what you can do in an open day. You can't revamp your team or your offense, but there are certain things you can do. What would you do if you're Billy Napier about how to fix this thing? You can't fix the whole thing. What could you do to improve it to weaken?
I would have tried to find the defensive edge for my football team. And what I probably would have done from a simple standpoint, and it's very old school, but I would have tried to do two things. I would have went live, controlled type of atmosphere, kind of with UCF in mind, maybe from a tempo standpoint, at least Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and would have really tried to get an edge with my team to almost, tick them off, so to speak. I mean, get them to the point where they were almost, mad at me because I've kind of changed a little bit, or it's almost like I was getting back at them for winning a football game. It was almost like, didn't we win? But get them to the point where they kind of have that edge.
Right.
And, and then kind of backed off. And then the other thing I would have done is, for as good as Florida's special teams have been, I would have maybe charged my special teams group to find a way that we could maybe force the tempo a little bit, because one thing that Coach Meyer brought up, and he talked about allowing every part of the program to play defense. One of the things that those Florida teams were able to flourish with special teams, because not only did they return some kicks, and we've been doing pretty good at that. Chimera DK has been doing a decent job, and even Jaden Ba and those guys have been taking some returns out past the 25, which is what you want to do. But Urban's guys also blocked some kicks, and they blocked them with starters and guys that really bought into what they were doing. And that's what I would have done this off week, is figure out a way that we can maybe steal a possession or two by blocking a kick or forcing a couple shanks, and maybe said, okay, for the next 2 to 3 games, every so often, if we can get the stops, when we get the stops, because we haven't been getting many stops, but when we get the stops on third down, we're going to force the issue and make them punt and make them punt quick and see what that gets us. Because if you could get, some of that momentum going off of a block kick, and I know the numbers are different now because everybody scores so much, but it used to be the team that got a punt blocked was destined to lose the game like 70% of the time at the college football level. So those are the two things that I would have maybe done, is tried to create an edge of some kind, almost went back to a second week of two-a-days, and then really charged my special teams to force some tempo or to force the issue a little bit on special teams.
All right, look who found us. He's here. He's here. He's out of the rain. Got his computer on.
That's the
his
man.
Brain is working. I can see his brain grinding right now.
I'm just trying to. I've been out in the getting stuff at last minute stuff that we needed, like extra batteries in case of the CPAP going out on my stepfather, and the emergency battery for a hospital bed and things like that. And it's
better than I did. I didn't get any of that. So but good for you. The good son, always doing something. And I just wanted to say that your ears must have been burning because your buddy Loren Meadows is bragging on you over here so much. So if you brag on me enough, he'll come out.
Well, Loren's just trying to fill space. That's all.
No, not at all.
No problem.
Too easy to do it. I mean, I'm a sitting target. So,
well, I mean, you're part of a group that just got across the line. I got a notification. Our show, since 8 or 9 months, just got our 650th view.
650,000.
650,000. Yeah. So, and you're part of that, and thank you for that.
Well, it's going to be, what we're doing is going to get more interesting because everything I am hearing through the grapevine, through a lot of different people who, a good many of them, I believe, know a lot of stuff more than I'll ever know, are saying the next loss is the last loss. And I've talked to a couple of people who've been at practice who say he knows, the team knows, the coaches know, and it shows in the practice. And if that's the case, then I'm going to tell you what, this UCF game is going to take a miracle of parting the Red Sea proportions. Gus has got a good ball club, and they got a running back named R.J. Harvey, who may be, as we've seen some pretty good running When we played him 2 years ago, he was same height, 5'9", and he weighed about 185 pounds, and he's 210 now, and he breaks tackles. He used to do 2 years ago. In the Gasparilla Bowl, he just outran people. Now he outruns people, and he runs over people, and he breaks tackles. And then you got KJ Jefferson, who's a 6'4", 260-pound quarterback who we have bad experiences with from last year trying to bring him down. This is not a fun situation that we've got coming up. I feel bad for Billy Napier, and at the same time, I look at what's happened. And I ran something Monday and Tuesday about the defense. I spent both those days about the defense. And you look at the second day, which was Tuesday, and I wrote about the numbers don't lie, and they really don't. Florida's offense, as Loren has pointed out probably at least a dozen times in the last 3 or 4 weeks, there's nothing wrong with Florida's offense. And there hasn't been anything wrong with Florida's offense since Billy's been here. You're averaging 400-plus yards a game, and here's the deal. If you get your defense off the field, you probably average 450 or 500. A 10% reduction in the yards allowed would give you 4 more first downs a game. Multiply that times the bare minimum, which is at times 3. 12 more offensive plays. That's a scoring drive. Any way you look at it, that's a scoring drive. And the way they've played offense the last 4 years, there's a pretty good chance they're going to get a scoring drive out of that. You're going to hold the ball. You're going to keep your defense off the field, etc., like that. Billy's big mistake, in retrospect and looking back at it, his big mistake is he brought the people with him from too many people with him who are defensive coaches from Louisiana. And if you're going to be here at Florida, you can't win at Florida. It's kind of like Dan Mullen trying to recruit the kind of kids that he won 7 or 8 games with at Mississippi State. He tried to recruit those same kind of kids here. And just because you have Gators on that uniform, a 2.5 3-star guy is still a 2.5 3-star guy. He can win 7 games at Mississippi State. He ain't gonna win 10 games, which is the minimum that's expected here at the University of Florida, playing against the likes of Georgia and Alabama and people like that. The same holds true with coaches, guys. You better, at a place like this, you better have the coaches. Urban Meyer in 2008 may have had as good a coaching staff as there has ever been in college football. When you look at that bunch they had there, holy cow, that was a great defensive staff. Charlie Strong, Vance Bedford, on and on and on. Dan McCarney, people like that who were just incredible defensive coaches. And Chuck Heater, another one, a vastly underrated coach, one of the best safeties coaches I've ever seen. And if you don't believe that, look at Ahmad Black and look at Major Wright in 2007 and 2008. Ahmad makes All-American in 2007, 2008 and 2010. Once they moved to safety,
never gotten onto the field. You were his biggest supporter. Kept saying,
well, he came. Somebody tried to convince him that they could make a corner out of him because he didn't have ideal size for a safety. Ahmad is 5'10" and was 190 pounds. Not an ideal size for safety. They like those safeties that are 6 foot to 6'2" and weigh 205 to 220. And they didn't think he could hit hard enough. Well, guess what? Guys who practiced against him told Chuck Heater, get this guy, bring him back to safety, and he will show it. And in spring practice in 2008, he proceeded to knock people into next week, and they said, oh my, he can play. And what does he do? He leads the nation in interceptions that year. But Urban had the good common sense to bring in quality coaches. And I'm not saying any of these people are bad people, because they're not. They're good people, good human beings. But just because you're a good human being doesn't mean you can necessarily be a really good football coach. So, Doug Dickey was a tremendous human being. He was a rotten fit here at Florida as a football coach. And we could go on and on and on with guys like that. Will Muschamp is a wonderful human being, but was not a good fit as a football coach here. On and on.
Yeah, good point. Let me just stop and tell people, if you need an MRI, this is something you need to know. If you live in North Central Florida, there's a place called Titan MRI up in Gainesville, and they're doing special customized appointments for you. If you can't be there during the week because you work, they'll give you an appointment at night, the weekend. They also make it possible, if you don't have insurance, to be a reasonable fee with your cash or card when you come there. They also want you to have the most comfortable experience you can have while you're getting the MRI. They know you can get claustrophobic, so they do all they can to give you ample room and take care of that need. If you need an MRI, I strongly suggest go to TitanMRI.com and make an appointment. You'll be glad you did. All right, yeah, guys, it's a pretty scary night out there tonight with all that's going on. We're very lucky to be here safe and sound, but we don't know what's going to happen. We're going to get some of this coming our way, I'm sure. Let's just hope everybody's going to be safe and no one gets hurt. That's scary up in when I was up in, and someone just asked me, where are you, buddy? I'm in Ocala, Florida right now. I'm staying with my friend Carswell Ponder. My wife Donna and I are. We came in from Panama City about 2 days ago. Boy, am I glad I did. Have you seen the cone? Have you seen where Panama City is right there? And even worse. And so thoughts and prayers to those people up there. In the remaining time we have here, Franz, you probably didn't get a chance to hear Urban's interview. We had him on last night, and he said some very interesting things. Loren, I'll let you encapsulate what you thought was the most interesting things he said that you heard.
Well, I think he echoed, as much as people have talked about Coach Napier and his ability to, he always says complimentary football, complimentary football, complimentary football. And I think Urban Meyer echoed that. The problem is, I think he detailed how you have to think about that and how the team as a whole, as well as, and I've said this before, all your coaches on the staff had to be bought into this idea of the complimentary football. And in the fact that, Urban articulated that he had the quarterback, the receivers, the running backs, had that licked. But he wanted to make sure that they had a stout defense. He wanted to make sure that no matter what, everything they were doing was from a personnel standpoint to help the defense, from a special team standpoint to help the defense, and even the way they called the football game offensively was to help the defense. And it goes back to the old adage: points win ball games, but defense wins championships. And I think at the end of the day, that's something that, as much as Billy Napier would like to preach that, and I really believe he means that, but there is something missing in that formula that guys like Urban Meyer, Steve Spurrier, even Ron Zook for that matter, were able to master in some way, to where their defense was the star of the show. You think about it. If you go back and look at those Florida offenses, there ain't a lot of pros. There were guys that had a cup of coffee here and there, played some years, things like that. But the guys that had the long careers, I saw Carlos Dunlap at Spurs a couple weeks ago. He's still playing, just got done playing. Guys have had long careers. Those defensive players that Coach Meyer was able to bring into Florida had really long careers because they were some of the best that in Florida history that have been around this place. And I think that that's one of the things that you look at a Joe Hayden that had a really long career and things like that. And that's what stood out to me was you talk about complementary football, but how do you actually, you know, put it into play? How do you really get everybody bought into it? And he even mentioned, Mickey Marotti having a say in that, a piece in that, and you got to have everybody bought in to that type of deal. And to answer somebody's question before I give it to Franz, Keymore Gamble's actually, he's done at UCF. He's coaching high school football now, which is good because we need more good guys helping those young guys out. So go ahead, Franz.
Well, here's the 2008 Florida Gators. 611 points for, 181 against. They only gave up 181 points in 14 ball games. That's pretty darn good. Get this, rushing yards. They gave up, 105 yards a game. Gave up passing yards. They gave up 179 a game. You win ball games when you do that. It's amazing when you look at the defensive numbers there. Brandon Spikes, Joe Hayden, Major Wright, Ahmad Black, Jermaine Cunningham, Will Hill, Janoris Jenkins, Carlos Dunlap, A.J. Jones, Brandon Hicks, Dustin Doe, Justin Tratto. What do they all have in common? And we could keep going down to a few others that are down lower, like Jay Howard. What do they all have in common? They all played Lorente McCray. They all played a long time in the National Football League. The defense was loaded up with studs. And you know what? You look at it like this. If you can get 2 more 3-and-outs a game for Florida, just 2, look at what that would have done in each of the previous 2 years. Look what it might have done in a game against the Aggies and against Miami if they'd been able to get early 3-and-outs against them. And maybe, the defense isn't worn out, but, next time it goes back on the field. Miami and the Aggies both have excellent defenses. But when the other team has a good defense, you got to have one too. Because you can't have your defense on the field and on and on and on.
Right.
And guys, I like Billy Napier. I really do. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a really good human being. I really think he has the kids' best interests in mind. But the one thing he has flopped on, and it's evident, is he did not bring in the right kind of coaches. These guys, it's not the players. Trust me, it's not the players. All these guys, you look down that roster, look where they were recruited. Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Auburn, LSU, they had offers from all these guys. So either all these people collectively made this ginormous mistake on the people that Florida has on its personnel, or else we're not coaching them. And I have to believe it's the latter.
I agree.
One of the things Urban made a point of talking about in this interview, we discussed the plan to win. And Urban takes that plan to win very seriously. And one of the things in the plan to win, I remembered it talking about it. He said, your defense has got to be your number one thing. And I remembered asking him in the book when I was talking about, well, how do you know? How can you make it number? What makes it number one? He said, you pay the coaches more money. And he said, I said this to you earlier, Loren. He said, I'm a quarterback or wide receiver guy. That's what he did. But I'm at a point to recruit the hell out of the really great defensive players. Right? That a big priority for he did, which he did. And he went after him. So he put emphasis, and he was a special teams coach. You think about how to fix things. That's how you fix things. You take it over. What's the old saying? Inspect what you expect, right?
Yeah.
And so when you say, who's your special teams coach? And man, I don't know, whatever. That's the reason.
Yeah.
When the head man is the guy, he thinks it's important enough to be the guy, then it seems like there's not enough emphasis put on it. I mean, if that had been Urban Meyer on third down on defense 3 years ago, Franz, he'd have worn them out the first couple of weeks if they couldn't stop anybody on third down. But it never got fixed, Franz. It never got fixed.
It never did. And to your point, buddy, we'll use the story once again that you and I have brought up before. David Nelson, 5-star recruit, Notre Dame, flipped from Notre Dame, and he comes here and says, "Coach, I want to play football," and he says, "I'm not playing." And guess what Urban said?
He wanted to be an offensive guy and only play offense, right?
And Urban told him, "You want to get on the field? Show me you want to get on the field on special teams." So what does he do? First game, he plays special teams against LSU. I mean, he was a difference maker. He was a difference maker against LSU. And again, against Vanderbilt up there, had some remarkable special teams plays. Next thing you know, guess what? David Nelson is catching passes and showing that he really could catch passes, and he really was as good as his hype coming out of high school. But this is how you got to have a pulse on your team, and the pulse that I believe that you got to have is you got to know what makes guys want to. We hear that word a lot, particularly coaches say, "Well, they don't show a lot of want to me." Well, there's something to that word "want to," Mm-hmm. Show me you want to be on the field. Show me you want to play football. Show me you will do whatever you need to do to play football. And that's how Urban found out who his players were. Who wants to play special teams? When you're seeing offensive tackles and centers volunteer, the Pouncey twins volunteering to play special teams. Now, did they play? Occasionally. But they volunteered and they were ready to go, and they understood, I want to play. Chris Rainey, how does Chris Rainey get on the field? Blocking punts. Yep. I mean, on and on and on. The stories are remarkable, and the correlation of what the special teams will do, as you pointed out so nicely, Loren, what special teams will do for the rest of your ball club is enormous. Urban remember the punter Chaz Henry, buddy?
Yep.
Remember what Urban's line was when he comes out on the field? Do you remember what he would always tell him? No. He'd grab him by the shoulder pad, and pull him over and say, "Go in there and make it wet." Florida in 2008 gave up 14 punt return yards for the whole year.
Yeah. Okay,
Chaz Henry was unbelievable at making it wet.
Yes, he was. A couple of things as we close out Florida as far as classes canceled through Friday, all academic student, all those related activities, including classes, exams, canceled during that time. I'm sure they're sorry about that. They expect to reopen and resume normal operations 12:01 a.m. on Saturday, 9/28. Now, I say these from just to this point. You know how people love to tweet, right? They always got something they want to say. And it always gets me. I say, if you're going to criticize a guy or say something, get his name right at least, right? Here's my favorite. There's two of them here. One is, this is my tweet of the day. Fire Sunbelt Billy, all right? Dash sources say we are hiring Coach Irving Myers. Coach Irving Myers. How wrong can you get it, right?
Pretty
well. You never know. It might have been that former congresswoman from over in Jacksonville.
I know.
Who
don't get racial about it. It says,
I'm not. I am never racial about it. The fact, the video has gone viral about 18 million times. You know, I don't even remember her name, but I remember that video like it was yesterday. You know,
you trying to get me in trouble, Franz? I don't want you.
I mean, no, but like Franz said, you got to do. I mean, Franz, I'm gonna tell you this, and this gives you credit. I literally had a 30-minute argument with somebody that you did so eloquently on Friday, talking about the contingency plan after Billy Napier, and on several of these discussion sites, sources were. I mean, it was literally your article word for word. So it's the power of things that people run with, and it was a great article. But I mean, I literally was like, I was trying to talk them off a ledge because they were like, "Oh, this person posts and they're never wrong. They don't post that much, so when they post, it's got to be true." And I just said, "Man, Franz is the man," because he had them all. He had them all jumping up and down, waiting on the band to come in.
Well, here's the thing on that.
You got to wrap up to this.
We cross-checked it. Through Buddy and I cross-checked it. Both of us had pretty close to the same thing. And we cross-checked it with different sources. And guess what it came up with? We didn't roll snake eyes on that one, babe. I guarantee you. We didn't. And people say, well, I heard somebody texted me today, said, well, when is it going to happen? It hadn't happened yet. I said, who's the head coach at Florida? He said, Billy Napier. I said, then that should tell you something. It hasn't happened yet.
Well, no, but even your list of potential names, people were like, it was like jumping
list. It was a very good list.
Yeah, definitely a great list.
Yes. All right, now a little humor to close this out. This is from Orange and Blue, from Blue Orange Gator. Breaking. FSU quarterback DJ Ukulele, how you say it, has decided not to redshirt and enter the transfer portal, despite urges and pleas to do so. Oh my gosh. He was promised $800K in NIL and received all of it, to rising Spears' dismay. Anyway, pretty funny. All right, guys, listen, have a great weekend. And Loren, you're going to have a good time down there watching the Prime Man and all that sort of stuff.
Yes, sir.
Erica's, he's the guy, Franz. Everywhere he goes, he blazes a trail.
I tell you what, he's going to get a chance. Andre Adelson and I were chatting today, and she has seen him play, and she says, if I got to vote today for the Heisman Trophy, she says it's Travis Hunter gets my first, second, and third place votes. She said he is that good, and she said, it's been a long time since I saw somebody who could do what he's doing. And, he takes one side of the field away on defense, and then he gets on the offensive side. And if he's, if you're looking for him, he'll be open. That's all I can say. He's kind of like you, Loren. The fact that you didn't catch 100 passes is because they didn't look for you, because you were always open.
I was. I used
that line with Freddie Weeby tonight when he said, let people know that we're going to be open at Spurriers today. And I wrote a thing that says, just like any great wide receivers, always open.
Yeah.
Well, it's like this. I could have been an All-American wide receiver myself if I'd had bigger hands and run the 100-yard dash 4 seconds faster. I could have been that good.
The ball, yeah.
I had a shirt. It finally disintegrated from me because it was like 25 years old. But I had a shirt that says, "I get open always and often." So, yeah.
All right, guys, you're closed now. Business is done.
All right, Joe.
Be safe, everybody out there.
Everybody be safe.
Everybody around in threats, harm's way for this horrible hurricane. Let's just pray that we get through it without any major disasters. So, guys, love you both. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Be safe.
Be safe out there, guys.
All right.
Take care.
You're on Gatorbait. You'll like him. All right. Good night, guys. All right, folks. That'll wrap it up from here. I just got a note saying from my niece that so happy Panama City seems to be spared. I haven't heard that yet. I'm going to go take a look at TV now. So anyway, great being with you, folks. Appreciate your comments. and appreciate you listening and watching. And thank you for helping us get to that coveted 650,000 views. We hadn't even been on the air a year. So thank you for that. I want to remind you of our good friends at Renstar Medical Research. This is not an ordinary group of people. They always have a higher cause. They want to give us better knowledge about our health, and they would encourage you to take part of, be active, be proactive. They want you to see if you can qualify for some of their clinical trials. They have many of them on a variety of topics, from Alzheimer's to asthma, you name it. And you can be, if you qualify, you could qualify for that and get time and travel compensation. It also helps them get data, which they then use, ship out these, get this profile of people in our community, and it's very helpful to them, to the people that do it with, and to you and us. So if you haven't done it before, check them out. Go to Renstar Medical Research and see why we always say Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers for the health questions of today. Thank you to Franz, and thank you to Loren for a good night tonight. Appreciate them being a part of it and carrying the show as usual. I'm glad we're still, at least our lights are on. I hope we're going to have a safe weekend. And see you back here, well, let's see, early next week. So we'll check you out then. Thanks. Good night.